In this video, I'm going to tell you my favourite splash character for every single affiliation in the game. Hey guys, Rich from Rich Mid Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well, and welcome to this another MCP video. Just me today, all by myself, no Quinn. But as the news from Mini Extravaganza was okay, or not Mini Extravaganza, I should say, me and Quinn have already gone through the Heimdall and Scourge thing. We'll cover off all the other new releases during Weekly Bugle, either this week or next week. Not entirely sure when we're going to come back yet. But one that I've been wanting to do for a little while was share with you my favourite, not necessarily the best, but my favourite characters to splash in each affiliation. Now, rather than just picking the same character over and over again, I have picked a different character for each affiliation. And another rule is no Thanos. So this is a Thanos free zone. We all know how good Thanos is at the moment. But honestly, he's definitely not my favourite character to play in any affiliation. So I'll be going through each of them in turn, telling you my favourite one, and it could be thematic, it could be because they synergize really well with something, or it could be that affiliation's leadership or a card really turns that character on. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump straight in and take a look at XForce. So with the XForce, I've gone with a character that I think is both thematic, as she is female, and probably the other reason that she's not in XForce is because she's a mutant, and we know how they don't like mutants at AMG, only joking, but it is Rogue. Now, I think Rogue is a very solid 4 threat anyway, and yes, there is some competition in XForce with 4 threats. You know, Danvers is particularly good. Medusa, even after the nerfs, is particularly good. But I think that leadership ability from She-Hulk really turns on Rogue. She's got a charge, she's got the marvelous strength, and she's also got the mutant absorption. She's a great objective holder, but she can also dish out some really good damage as well. She's got a character throw and she's got a terrain throw, the character throw being off the back end of her Southern Hospitality. So she's a really good one to be able to activate later, especially round 1, after you've been able to get some power onto her, you know, if She-Hulk or somebody else has taken a few licks. And I think, yeah, she works really well, and, you know, a little bit thematic as well. So next then is Asgard, and yes, they've had some new additions to their team, but for me, when I'm playing Asgard, they're one of the few affiliations really that I like to play less attrition based and more objective based, and a little bit of control in there as well. Angela with that medium base and that long move is great for going around and picking up objectives, and I think a great addition to Angela, and indeed Enchantress for that objective holding, is Toad. For me, he fits 2 things. First of all, he's a 2 threat, which is something that the Asgardians are absolutely lacking, but he does have that finders keepers action superpower that basically allows him to move an asset or civilian token from somebody else to him. So he's great on certain objectives. You know, Deadly Virus is one that he's really good on, and because he's only 2 threat, you don't mind him disappearing from the game if it's going to score you those all important victory points. Next up then is the Avengers, and there are so many to choose from in this list. I did narrow it down to 2. I did look at Heimdall, but if I'm being brutally honest, I haven't had enough playtime yet with Heimdall in the Avengers to really warrant putting him here. So I've got to go with my favourite, and indeed Quinn's favourite. It's OG Doctor Strange. No gems on this one, just keeping him at a 5 threat, but he does some amazing work in the Avengers. Hoggoth's Hoary Wisdom, being able to add 2 dice for just 1 power, means that you can really boost Steve's defences. And also Oster's Refuge for 3 power down to 2 if it's your first superpower of the turn. So 3 damage for 2 power is a great way of being able to keep your bigger characters alive. And let's not forget as well, his attacks are pretty darn good. Bolts of Bedevilment is a nice energy builder, but if it deals damage, you can push the target short, no matter their size, and then that Mystic Binding on the Crimson Bands of Cyttorak can be absolutely devastating for your opponent. So Doctor Strange is my favourite choice for the Avengers. Next up then, the recently, I'm going to use the word buffed, recently buffed Black Order, at least with the addition of Black Swan and Supergiant, but also some really nice tactics cards in there as well. What do Black Order want to do? They want to murder things. What are Black Order missing? It's a 2-threat. Who's the best 2-threat at murdering things? Well, I think you've got an option of 2. For actual outright murder, yes, Bullseye is going to give you consistent damage. Really, for me, it's either Rocket or Nebula. And I think up close and personal with Black Order is always better. They're not hiding behind a back line. And also, it's thematic as well. So for me, Nebula is my favourite character to splash with Black Order. She's got some really nice attacks. The fact that she's got 2 builders, so her strike, which is power equal to damage dealt, but also that blaster pistol, which is range 3, it's energy, and it's a guaranteed 1 power. She's got the assassin capability, which means that yes, she can hold an objective token or contest an objective token, but you Black Order, you really don't care. If somebody else is holding or contesting objectives, she gets full rerolls on any of her attacks, and that can be absolutely devastating. Cybernetic enhancements as well means that even as a 2-threat, she is going to be a little bit tankier than what you expect. That 1 reroll and the fact that she gets to heal 1 at the beginning of her turn is really, really nice. And she's immune to quite a few conditions as well. So bleed, poison, and stun. So yeah, for me, Nebula is my my number 1 choice for splashing in Black Order. Okay, my old favourite affiliation, and maybe still my favourite affiliation in the game, it is Brotherhood of Mutants. And with some big characters in here, and with representation across the board of 6-threat all the way down to 2-threat characters, there's not a huge amount of room for splash characters in this affiliation now. However, one for me that has stood the absolute test of time. This is particularly in a Magneto-led Brotherhood of Mutants, but it's the bestest boy, Lockjaw. He does so much for Brotherhood of Mutants under Magneto. For only 3 threat, he's got, first of all, a size 3 terrain throw, which is super important. It's also medium, and that can generate the power round 1 to give Brotherhood of Mutants all sorts of shenanigans. He can also teleport himself and, more importantly, other allied characters as well. And it's a range 3 teleport for just 2 power. An early game, being able to get Magneto up the board, super important. He's also a great back objective holder. But also, if your opponent does push and move Magneto out of position, Lockjaw can very easily bring him back into play without maybe having to use that Asteroid M that you can save for later on in the game. So yeah, for me, Lockjaw, number 1 splash character for Brotherhood of Mutants. So next up is Cabal, and once again, I'm going under Red Skull's leadership for this rather than Sin's, because it's my list of favourites, and I prefer to play Red Skull's leadership in Cabal rather than Sin's. And one that I've picked out, there's a couple that I could have gone for, but the one that I've actually plumped with is going to be Vision. That solar energy beam using Red Skull's leadership means he can often get off synthesized Avengers. He's got enough power to do the rapid phasing. He's got calculated trajectory as well. He becomes an absolute battery and powerhouse in Cabal, and he can dish out some real damage. And because of that phasing ability, as long as you keep 2 power on him at all times, he can negate a lot of damage. He goes from being a 2/2/4 to a 5/5/4. So really good defensively, and yeah, absolutely solid 4-threat choice for Cabal. Next up then is, I was going to say New Kids on the Block being Convocation, but I suppose they're not anymore. Yeah, we all know Convocation. They've got some really nice tricks up their sleeve. One of those tricks is obviously the Ironbound books of Shuma Gorath. And that basically allows any character to be able to turn physical attacks into mystic attacks. But there's a trigger on this card that is when an allied character is KO'd. After the effect is resolved, you may return this card to your available team tactics card. So it's got some recycling in there as well, so you can use this time and time again, which is really, really important. And the character that I think just works best with that, I didn't come up with this first of all. I think it was Marcus who first sort of started playing around with this. I've played with it a few times, against it a few times, but it is your girl, Electra Natchios. And why? Well, it's because of her hand ninjas and what those hand ninjas can do. So move one asset or civilian token being held by this character to another allied character within range 3. The allied character is now holding that token. Fairly straightforward so far. However, this character is then KO'd. So the hand ninjas are taken off the board. And because Ironbound Books doesn't state non-grunt, it means that you can trigger that card coming back at yourself. So you have full control over it. You're not having to rely on one of your own characters to be KO'd by your opponent. So yeah, for me, the most fun you can have, and my favourite character, just because she works so well with that card, is going to be Electra Natchios. Okay, next up then is Criminal Syndicate, and these are an affiliation that I never really played too much under Kingpin. And I know that Lizard works really, really well. I know people have taken Juggernaut in Criminal Syndicate under Kingpin, those sorts of things. But yes, we could go down the Ant-Man route. You guys saw I did a video on that a couple of weeks ago now around on Gamma, how he can score 3 victory points turn 1 without even rolling a dice. But that's not my favourite way of playing it. I like to play Criminal Syndicate under Shadowlands Daredevil, and I like to murder people. I also like to have priority control. And a combo that are fantastic at both murdering people and are great at retaining priority are, unfortunately, Quinn, don't kill me, husband and wife, Corvus and Proxima. Obviously, Corvus running with that reality gem, and then Proxima just being Proxima. But yeah, I really, really love running these guys in Criminal Syndicate. You can even run them with Sin and with Crossbones and Sin in there as well, which just means you get all sorts of shenanigans going off. You can potentially follow me from, or use Proxima into Corvus using husband and wife, and then you can play Follow Me off Corvus to then go into Sin and Crossbones. It's absolutely crazy, but I really enjoy it. I find it really, really fun. So Corvus with the reality gem and Proxima are my choice for Criminal Syndicate. So next up then is an affiliation that most definitely needs some love. It is Defenders. They're not in a good space at the moment. I really, really like Doctor Strange's leadership ability that allows a character to pay a power and then choose whatever attack type they want. And it'll also do a hex off the back end, but they're in desperate need for some tactics cards that they can use. So really right now, Defenders are a difficult one, but the way that you're going to play Defenders is you're going to play them attrition based. They've got some good characters who can do that, but who is a fantastic character at absolutely murdering people? Well, it is your girl X23, aka Laura Kinney. And I would even say if you wanted to, you could put Honey Badger in there as well, because she has that awesome little range 1 bubble around her that's like an additional incinerator as long as it's not her attacking, and she does have good synergy with Big Sis, Little Sis. She's also got a nice reactive ability as well that's like the reverse bodyguard. So yeah, but for me, X23 being able to then take a claw rush and turn it into a mystic attack or an energy attack or something like that is really, really useful. And she's real good at generating power with that 5 strength adamantium slash with a bleed and a pierce. It's really, really nice. She's got some good rerolls as well. So yeah, for me at the moment in Defenders, X23 aka Laura Kinney, and if you want, take Little Sis with her as well. Okay, next up, my current love or ex-current love in this game. I'm still undecided yet whether I'm playing them in the upcoming league or not, but it is Guardians of the Galaxy. You guys know how much I love me some Guardians of the Galaxy, and there is a very obvious one for me in Guardians of the Galaxy. You guys probably know what this is already, but it's got to be your boy Jonathan Blaze, aka Ghost Rider. He just works so well. Is he as maxed out as maybe a Thanos is in Guardians of the Galaxy? Maybe not. I would probably say not. But the games I've had with him, I have so much fun with him every single time. He became an absolute staple for me during the TTS League. He'd become a staple in most of the big events that I've played this year as well. He's been the MVP on more than one occasion for me. So, and you know, Cosmic Ghost Rider, right? So it is somewhat thematic as well. But give this guy a reroll token, or a winging it token, sorry. And yeah, all of a sudden Chains of Damnation becomes absolutely brilliant. Penance Stare, you're doing so much damage with them, and then you've got all of that chip damage from Wicked Judgment as well. So yeah, Ghost Rider for me, number one choice for Guardians of the Galaxy. Next up then is going to be an affiliation that I've been playing quite a bit of late, and that is the Inhumans. Most definitely not the most competitive, especially since Medusa took a little bit of a nerf, but with the addition of Ms. Marvel, they've got some really nice objective play, and somebody who really plays into that objective play is your girl Angela. We already spoke about her in Asgard with that medium base and that long move. But the fact that turn one, she can go out there and pick up 2 objectives, and then you can even have a lockjaw teleporter back out of harm's way. The next activation is really good. It was actually Ron who told me about running Angela in Inhumans. So Ron, shout out to you. But yeah, I've been really enjoying her in there, and she does a really good job. I'm going to say better than what she does for Asgard and even Guardians of the Galaxy. So yeah, she's my number one pick for splashable characters in Inhumans. Next up then is going to be Midnight Suns, and once again I have to admit, not an affiliation I have played a huge amount with. But for me, there was 2 approaches to this. I could either try to look at a character that dished out lots of bleed, so we've got some symbiotes who can do that, plus some other characters as well, or a character that could really benefit from Bump in the Night, which is spend a power and then you get to move within range 1 of your current position. So that's Blade's leadership ability. And I did toy with the idea of Venom and Carnage and a couple of others, but Venom has already been put to one side for another affiliation. I tried to keep it a different character for each. So I then looked at the leadership and said, you know, who could really benefit from a range 1 bump? And I landed on your boy Black Dwarf. Large base, short movement. And we already know that one of the big things that causes problems for Black Dwarf is that lack of movement. Yes, he's got his Enforced Oblivion, but it's not a charge. It's just you make a move action and then get extra dice. So having that bump is really good on Black Dwarf. He can dish out some huge damage. Plus, he's got a size 4 terrain or enemy character throw medium, which is really good. And he's a tanky old boy as well. So yeah, he can keep your other characters alive that little bit longer, which is really nice. So yeah, for Midnight Suns, my choice is going to be Black Dwarf. Next up then are the new kids on the block, and that is Nick Fury's Shield. So again, we had a couple of ways that we could look at this one, but what I'm really looking at here is that last line of defense, the leadership ability from Nick Fury. Now what we're actually looking at is the second part, which is if you've got equal to or more VPs than your opponent, but when an enemy character damages an allied character with an attack, the allied character may spend 1 power. If it does, after the attack is resolved, the allied character may advance short towards the attacking character. We just spoke about how Black Dwarf can be, you know, pushed around the board, and that bump helps him. So I was thinking about what other characters were really good, but really struggled with movement or had some mechanics. And this is what I was saving Venom for. Venom is, yes, susceptible to energy attacks, and I'm going to give a shout out to the Baron Vincent for this one. It was already on my radar, but he sort of confirmed it. He's been playing a lot of Shield, but Venom in Shield, yes, he's susceptible to attacks, right? That are energy. What he's actually more susceptible to are range 4 attacks, so something outside of range 3, because he doesn't get to do so many snacks and then potentially heal himself up with We Are Venom. For 1 power, he can advance short towards the enemy, which means that in most cases he is going to be within range 3, which means he can then do that follow-up attack using so many snacks. Because of the way the timings work, if he advances first, and then at the end of that advance, he's within range 3, he can then still trigger so many snacks. So he comes into his own in Shield. I played him against Vincent when I went against him. It was my Venom versus his Venom, and he did some absolute work. Since then, I've played it a couple of times myself in some practice games. And yeah, Venom in Shield is really, really good. And fingers crossed, it means that we are going to get Agent Venom at some point as well, who would be really cool because he'd go in Shield, but I also think he'd go in Guardians of the Galaxy as well. But yeah, for Shield guys, try Venom out. He's really cool. Okay, then next up is Spider Foes, another aggressive attrition-based roster, or affiliation, I should say, and one that I really, really like. But what I really like doing with these guys is playing on that idea of all of this little chip damage, moving characters around, doing little chip damage here, there, and everywhere. And a character who does that really, really well is your boy Remy LeBeau, aka Gambit. So what we're looking at here is that kinetic ace. So it's a 0 cost ability, but on a wild, you get explosive. Everyone within range 2 is going to suffer 1 damage. Now, this isn't going to work on every single setup, but if you're tight down the middle on a gamma wave or a researcher or something like that, it just works so well. For 0 cost, you're going to gain power equal to the damage dealt, but even if you don't deal any damage to your target, if you get that explosive off, you're going to be able to do so much damage to all of the characters in and around him. So yeah, he's super, super fun. And because of a little something extra, the chance of getting a wild in those 5 dice that he rolls is super, super high, because he's actually got 3 chances on the dice itself, because the 2 hits and then the wild itself to be able to get the wild. So yeah, really, really like him. He's a really, really cool addition to it. And as I say, he works quite nicely with the whole idea of all that chip damage as well. Next up then is the Uncanny X-Men. Now, whilst I know they are a lot of people's favourite affiliation, I know for me, they were my entry into Marvel back in the 90s. But I think it's still fair to say that they are missing a little bit of something when it comes to their affiliation. But good news is there's lots of other characters that they can pull from to add into the affiliation. And what we're looking at here is actually under Storm's leadership. And the character that I've picked out is going to be Ghost Spider, aka Gwen Stacy. Don't underestimate Gwen's potential damage output as well. If she gets a second spider technique off, for example, she's rolling 7 dice on a builder. And she's already moved. She can also move again off the back of that attack. So she's super, super mobile. But what we're really interested in here is the lifesaver that she's got. Being able to take your characters who have moved up and engaged, done their damage, and then getting them back out of danger, or even pulling them to a point so they're outside of range 2, so they are going to benefit from that cover that Storm gives them. So she's definitely worth a try, and at only 3 threat, she slots in really, really easy to the Uncanny X-Men. Okay, Wakanda next, and there are so many characters that we can pick for this because they're only a small affiliation. So if you're going just pure Wakanda, you're going to have quite a lot of splash characters in there. But I've been playing a lot of Wakanda of late. They are potentially my next affiliation, and potentially the one that I'm going to be taking to the new season of the TTS League with. And the character that I've gone for is a brand new 3-threat character, but it is going to be Heimdall the All-Seeing. This guy does some absolute work in Wakanda. Wakanda already have access to lots of rerolls through T'Challa's leadership ability, through Shuri's rerolls. So being able to add in another source of rerolls into the mix for somebody like Killmonger, if you're using that Usurp the Throne and you spent that tactics card and you really, really need to take that enemy down to get those 2 victory points, having access to all of these different rerolls is super, super important and increases his damage output exponentially. So he's also lots of fun. He's also got a cool character. So yeah, Heimdall the All-Seeing is my choice for Wakanda. Okay, Web Warriors up next. And, you know, these guys have got some good characters of their own, but I really went down the control route with this one. And a character who I have been playing a lot more with of late. He's been in my unaffiliated list. He's actually in my Wakanda list as well. For a 3-threat, even though he's a leader, outside of affiliation, he does an absolutely brilliant job, but it is Captain America, aka Sam Wilson. And really, what he can do here, first of all, we've got a charge. It's really, really nice, right? A long move with a charge is very, very good. Second of all, that shield thrower with the ricochet, with the push, means that you've got another character who can push opponents off points and really go for that objective game. So yeah, I really, really like him. He's super, super mobile. He's also defensively pretty darn good. Vibranium shield, meaning that he goes from a 3-3-3 to a 5-5-3, means that he can take a bit more of a punch than what you'd first think. So he is my choice for Web Warriors. Lastly then is XForce. XForce are another affiliation that are not in a good space at the moment. They really need a little something extra. They're a very heavy attrition-based roster. Most of their characters have got access to rerolls natively, just through their own card. They've obviously got the access to rerolls through Cable's leadership ability. And what's better than 2 access to rerolls? 3 access to rerolls. So it's your boy Baron Zemo. Yes, he had to appear in one of these. I had to be very careful about which one I picked, and I do think of all of them, he is best in XForce, or they need him the most in XForce, I should say, because he's also a really good standalone as well. Yes, he dishes out the rerolls, but he's got a long move, he's got a charge, and he can also, as I mentioned, dish out lots and lots of damage himself. But get him in the mix with an X-23 and a Honey Badger. You can use Honey Badgers to protect him, but then he's dishing out those rerolls, not just to people on the offensive, but also to everybody on the defensive as well. So yeah, he is my pick for XForce. And there we go, guys. That is my favourite splashable character in every single affiliation for Marvel Crisis Protocol. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, guys, these are just my personal favourites, and that could be for any reason, whether it's thematic, whether it's because I like the character, whether they just synergize well. But let me know down in the comment section below. Do you agree with some of them? Are they also your favourite ones? Are there some that you found work in other affiliations as well? So let me know in the comment section below what your sort of one go-to splashable character is for your favourite affiliation in the game. If you've liked this video in any way, shape or form, all I ask is that you leave a little like. It really, really does help with the YouTube algorithm and gets the video out there to more people. And if you want to support the channel even further, we do have our Patreon up and running as well. There'll be a link down in the description below. And a huge thank you to everyone who's already supported us on Patreon. There's 17 of you now, and it really, really does help. We've now fully set up with the recording studio so we can record live battle reports. I just need to finish building my last quarter of the board. But once we've done that, we're going to be doing some live battle reports. And that is a thank you to everyone who supported us on Patreon, because it's the funds that we've got through that that's allowed us to go and do that as well. So huge, huge thank you to everyone who's already supported us. Guys, if you haven't checked out the Discord server as well, go check it out. All things MCP, plus a whole bunch of other things as well. It's a really cool place to be. And as always, guys, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.